Welcome to the journey to discover the skill of catching eels, an ancient and challenging art in the middle of the ocean. Eels, also known as sea eels, are a mysterious creature, hidden under the mud and sand of the deep sea or reef crevices. Living at night and very difficult to detect without experience and skills. Hunting eels is not simply the act of setting traps or casting nets, it is a process of observation, patience, understanding of the biological habits and habitat of this species. In this long article, we will delve into each aspect of the skill of catching eels, from experience in choosing locations, tools, hunting techniques, preservation to the life of fishermen who specialize in catching eels far away from home. Since ancient times, humans have had a close connection with the sea. Among the fish species sought by ancient people, sea eels have a special place because of their difficulty in hunting and their high nutritional value. Especially in coastal areas such as Japan, Korea, Vietnam or the Philippines, catching sea eels is not only a profession but also a part of cultural identity. To catch an adult eel, the fisherman must equip himself with not only the right tools but also a sharp intuition trained over time. Sea eels often live in reefs, coral reefs, rock crevices or under the mud and sand of the seabed from a depth of 5 to 100 meters. They're nocturnal, with strong hunting habits at high tide or at dusk. This makes eel catching especially difficult because the fisherman must calculate the exact time to drop the trap or dive. Eels have a smooth, long body, can be up to 2 meters long, and are very good at escaping if not caught accurately. There are many methods for catching eels, but the most common are still using traps, hand lines, or diving with spears and specialized nets. Each of these methods is divided into many different small techniques, depending on each geographical area, the living habits of the eels in that area, as well as the climate conditions. For example, in Japan, professional eel hunters often dive at night with headlamps and use their bare hands or small nets to herd eels hiding in the crevices of coral reefs. On the contrary, in Vietnam, coastal fishermen often use bamboo tubes, plastic tubes or earthenware jars to set traps, then bring them back the next morning to check. Setting eel traps is a skill that requires patience and a deep understanding of the seabed terrain. Traditional traps are often made of bamboo tubes, covered at one end, and the other end is equipped with a trapdoor that closes when the eel enters. Eel bait can be small fish, dead shrimp or fish intestines, which have a fishy smell and attract eels from a distance. The trap setter often has to survey shallow water areas with gentle currents. Lots of moss and rubble, where eels like to hide. When dropping the trap setter attaches a marker buoy and a lead anchor to secure the trap at the bottom. Returning to check the trap needs to be calculated properly, avoiding leaving it too long, causing the eel to die or choke on water, as well as avoiding other species such as crabs and octopuses from damaging the trap. Sea eel fishing is a thrilling challenge. The necessary tools are a short fishing rod, thin but strong fishing line, small, sharp hooks and baits such as small fish or shrimp intestines. The angler must accurately determine where the eel is hiding, usually deep crevices or reefs. Then gently drop the bait in and wait for the signal to bite. Eels do not bite the bait as hard as other fish, but usually hold it lightly and then pull it away, so the angler must be very observant and patient, only pulling the rod when feeling the characteristic pulling force of the eel. Diving to catch sea eels is the most difficult technique, requiring the fisherman to be in good health, have professional diving skills and excellent underwater observation ability. The fisherman usually dives in the evening or at night, when the eels start to come out to feed, under the light of a headlamp. The fisherman checks each crevice in the rocks, observes the eel's movements and uses a net or bare hands to catch them. Some people also use spears or small iron hooks to pull the eels out of the cave. But high technique is required to avoid tearing the eel's skin, reducing the commercial value. The process of preserving eels after catching is also extremely important. Sea eels are very susceptible to dehydration and death if left in the air for a long time. Fishermen often have small saltwater tanks or portable oxygen tanks to keep the eels alive, helping to ensure freshness and high value when sold on the market. If eels cannot be kept alive, they must be cleaned immediately and stored in ice or frozen. Sea eels are not only nutritious food, but also a high-class ingredient in Japanese, Korean and Chinese cuisine. Eel meat is soft, fatty, nutritious, rich in omega-3, often used to make sushi, grilled on charcoal, cooked in porridge or stewed with tonics. In coastal fishing villages specializing in eel catching, people's lives are closely linked to the eel season, from making traps, repairing boats, to dividing into groups to dive at night. Each trip to sea is a challenge, full of danger but also full of hope. Those who old craftsmen often pass on the secrets of choosing traps, placing bait, and determining ideal terrain so that the younger generation can continue to preserve the traditional craft. The eel cutting skill of the deer lone people is an art that requires dexterity, meticulousness, and many years of experience passed down through generations. In the deer lone sea area, where eels are considered one of the rare specialties, cutting eels is not only a simple preliminary step but an indispensable part of the entire process of catching, processing, and commercializing. The people here attach great importance to every step in handling eels, especially the cutting step, because even a small mistake can reduce the value of eel meat or affect the flavor when cooking. After being caught alive from the sea, eels are often put into saltwater tanks or ice boxes to keep them fresh. Deer lone people have experience in handling eels right on the shore or in coastal shacks. Before cutting, they need to cool the eel, that is, to calm the struggling body of the eel by dropping it into cold water with ice, which helps slow down muscle movement. Sea eels have slippery, slimy skin and are very strong, so to keep the eel still when cutting, people often use a long bamboo chopstick or a small iron nail to pierce the eel's head and fix it to a wooden cutting board. Holding the body with one hand and a sharp knife with the other, the worker begins to cut from the nape down to the spine in a single line, decisive, thin and even. The most important skill in cutting eels is how to not break the eel's gallbladder and not tear the meat along both sides of the spine. If the gallbladder breaks, the meat will be bitter, and if the cutting is not even, the meat will not have a nice shape, affecting the commercial value, especially if the eel is exported to Japanese or Korean restaurants. After cutting the spine, the craftsman skillfully separates the spine with the tip of a small knife, slowly moving the blade along the bone to filter out 2 pieces of original meat. A skilled craftsman can only take about 30 seconds to filter a 1 to 2 kilogram sea eel while still keeping the shape of the fillet intact. An indispensable part of the technique of cutting sea eels in deer lone is the technique of skinning alive. Unlike some other places that scrape the skin or rub it with salt, deer lone people have a unique way of skinning. After fixing the eel's head on the cutting board, the craftsman uses a sharp knife to lightly cut the skin on the neck, then uses a clean cloth or his bare hand to pull hard in a line. The skin will gradually slip off from head to tail. This technique must be done quickly and decisively because otherwise the skin will be broken. leaving behind a piece of skin that will make the meat not evenly browned when grilled. In the case of eels that are too large, people have to divide them into pieces, then peel each part, then put them together when processing. Once the eel meat has been filtered, the spine, head and intestines will be used by the people to make broth or dried to make fish sauce. The people of Dialone are very good at not wasting any part of the eel. The bones can be grilled, fried or ground into animal feed. If the eel intestines are cleaned, they will become a unique dish, often stir-fried with onions or cooked into porridge. The eel head is large, with fatty cheeks, often braised with turmeric or braised with sweet and salty sauce, a specialty of many fishing families. The eel cutting profession in Dialone is often passed down from generation to generation. Children from 10 to 12 years old are allowed by their parents to observe. Get acquainted with knives. Learn how to fix eels. Learn how to distinguish the location of bones, blood vessels, and bile glands. Every year, during the peak eel harvest season, the huts along the coast resound with the steady sound of eel cutting. The fishy smell of the sea mixed with the smell of the sun. The sound of knives hitting the cutting board evenly creating a rhythmic working atmosphere. Skilled workers can cut hundreds of eels each morning, their hands as skillful as an artist's. In addition to their skills, the people of Dialone also have their own secret knife, called eel knife. This type of knife has a thin body, about 30 to 40 centimeters long, a sharp blade, and a slightly curved body like a swallow's wing to easily slide along the eel bones. Each worker has a favorite knife, which is regularly sharpened and not allowed to be touched by others. The eel knife is not used for other purposes to avoid losing its sharpness and flexibility when working on the soft flesh characteristic of sea eels. After being cut and cleaned, the eel meat is classified, the fatty belly is kept separate. The body is put in an ice tray, and the beautiful meat, the fillet along both sides of the spine, will be packaged in advance to sell at a higher price. Traders who buy eels in Dialone often know the skill of the cutter just by looking at the piece of meat. A thin, even piece of meat, without breaks or bruises is a sign of a skilled worker. Therefore, eel cutting skills not only affect the selling price, but also the personal pride of each Dialone resident who is attached to the sea profession. For them, each time they cut eels, it is a time to show their bravery, love for the profession and respect for the products of the sea. Despite the hard, tiring and fishy smell of the work, the people here still persevere, because they understand that keeping the eel cutting profession means keeping a part of the soul of the Dialone fishing village, where each piece of eel meat is processed not only with a sharp knife but also with a lifetime of tradition and passion. In addition to the skillfulness in each knife stroke, the people of Dialone also have the habit of cutting eels early in the morning. When the weather is still cool, the eels are still fresh. The meat is not yet soft and mushy. Between 3 to 6 a.m., the boats carrying eels dock, and immediately, the elderly women in the village are present at the processing shed. They hold knives, prepare wooden cutting boards, towels, basins of cold ice water, coarse salt and diluted vinegar to wash away the blood and slime on the eel's body. The whole pond is lit up by oil lamps. the white-yellow light seeping through the space soaked in mist and the smell of the sea. Experienced workers also have the technique of using a knife blade to probe the blood vessels to ensure that all the eel blood is removed after cutting. Sea eel blood is usually thick and dark black. If not removed carefully, it will leave a strong fishy smell, greatly affecting the flavor when preparing grilled or braised dishes. Some people also soak the fillet in salt water mixed with white wine for a few minutes. Then take it out to drain before packaging. Each step is carried out carefully as if the worker were making a dish for their own family. After cutting and processing, the eel is divided into the following forms: whole fillet, cut fillet, separate eel skin, separate spine, separate intestines, separate eel head, depending on the order from wholesalers in Saigon, Hanoi, or even exported to Taiwan, Japan, Korea. The cutting method is also adjusted. For export orders, the worker must clean and arrange the meat on the tray in a straight line, each piece having approximately the same weight. All operations must be completed within the first few hours of the morning, before the sun is strong, so that the eel meat does not change color or lose its natural moisture. What is special about the eel cutting skills of the Dia Lone people is the coordination between family members. A working shed can include 2 men who specialize in fixing and cutting fillets, 1 woman who specializes in soaking and washing, and the other who specializes in packaging. In some places, children in middle and high school also help their mothers wipe the cutting board, wash the knife, and collect eel intestines to feed fish or use as bait. Although the atmosphere is busy, it is full of solidarity. The eel cutting profession is therefore not simply an individual labor, but a highly connected chain of community work.